Hello, and welcome back to the Follow Your Spark podcast. I am super excited for today's guest, Samantha Shaibani. And this incredible human sitting across the screen from me is the creator of Moonifest, an app for manifesting with the moon. And Moonifest is her love letter to intuition, devotion, and the divine feminine. The lunar phases became a map for her to remember how to honor her own cycles, and she built this app to help other people do the same. She blends mysticism with grounded practice, so it's something you can actually use to work with the natural phases of your body, your emotions, and your life. And her intention is really to help people come home to themselves one moon cycle at a time. And I cannot wait to talk about all the things. So, Samantha, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Girl, thank you for having me. I love your energy. I'm so happy to be here on your show and to just share everything I have to share about Moonifest and intuition and all the good things.
Yes, amazing. And for everyone listening, I love to also start these conversations and share how I got connected with guests, because for me, so much of following Sparks is just like trusting the breadcrumbs. And Samantha and I think we met at Sparkle Space. I think
Yeah.
you came to one of the dances, and immediately, even when I saw you dancing, I was just like magnetized to your vibe and energy. And I was just like, I don't know why, but you are a person that I want to know. And afterwards, I think we followed each other on Instagram and I got to learn more about the work that you do. And I just found it so fascinating and courageous and magical. And yeah, I felt called to share you and your work with my community. And I'm so glad you said yes. So thanks again.
Thank you. Of course, that Sparkle Space event was exactly like following your spark. So I hadn't heard about Sparkle Space before. I had no idea about it. And I just had one friend who had gone to several events and she was like, you've got to come to this. She sent me the time and the date. And I was like, I don't even need to know anything. I just trust this girl with my life. She's calling me there. We're going to go and we're going to dance. And showing up to it was just, that was a thing where I was like, I don't know why I'm being called or drawn to come to Sparkle Space, but the invitation just captured me. And I went, and again, the space you curated, the whole team behind Sparkle Space, the environment, it was all just magical. And yeah, we shared that look right before I left the circle, and I was like, we're going to be connected. We're going to do something here.
Yeah, I love that so much. And it's just like, I am reminded again and again and again what happens when you just follow that invitation. If someone invites you somewhere, you get that internal intuitive nudge, and we're going to talk all about intuition, I'm sure, and you follow it. That's the key. You have to follow it. So I'm so glad you followed it. I'm so glad we
Me
met.
too. Me
I'm glad
too.
we get to have this conversation now. So, speaking of which, the first question I always ask people is that when you hear that phrase, to follow your spark, what does that mean to you? What comes up for you?
Yeah, the spark for me, it always renders itself as intuition. And when I started to learn about intuition, I was doing a bunch of self study with both online classes, with books. I started joining communities and I started to realize that there is this little ball of light in me, like a literal ball of light that gets
Mm,
nurtured and grows brighter and gets airtime the more I tune into it. And
mm,
following your spark, it's in my mind of like when you get an invitation to something and you says, ooh, do your eyes open a little bit more? Do you get a little bit of surge of energy? Is there some sort of excitement that's coming towards it? And
mhm,
can you discern within yourself what is really asking to come forward with this? And if you have the practice, that's all there is. There's no like final destination we're getting to, right? It's a
mhm,
practice of just getting to feel into your body, feel into that spark. And if it starts
mhm,
like tingling and it's yes, 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 you just go closer. And then if it's no, 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 you move further away and you just get to follow where that spark is leading you. So I
mhm,
love that you have the brand of this spark is anything that you get to feel inside of your body and call to.
mhm,
And it's a really
mhm.
beautiful way to just get to learn about yourself.
Yeah. So I'm hearing it's like a very felt sensation, both like
Mhm.
on a physical level as well as an energetic level of like I heard tingling, surge of energy, this like
Yeah.
perception of a ball of light inside of you that can get bigger or dimmer, and to really pay attention and to notice those sensations. And that's kind of like how you feel the spark.
Yeah, both, taking in from this physical body, this response, as well as where's the excitement? Where do you want to go and put yourself? And the more I practice, the more I learn that like my physical body is going to give me the right nudges to the places that fit and the places that don't fit. And sometimes you have to go through that process of putting yourself in a lot of places that don't fit until you're like, okay, this is where it's coming from. This is what it means. And then when you reach a space that really fits, you're like, wow, this feels like something just really beautifully aligned. And that's been a huge part of just learning about myself and how to follow what feels good.
Yeah, and both of those pieces of information are so valuable, right? Both the don't fit, that it's uncomfortable enough that you're like, okay, I've burned my finger on the fire enough times to know I don't want to do that again. So, yeah. So, I would love to hear what are some tipping point moments, tipping point sparks you followed in your life that you feel like made a big difference in like you becoming who you are now, creating what you've created. I'm sure there are many, but if there's any that just are popping into your mind right now to share, what might they be?
So the first one that really set me on this entire path that I feel like of a spiritual and intuitive journey has been when I met my first intuition coach. And I didn't know what an intuition coach was at the time. I just met this woman. Her name is Jess. She was just a magnet for some reason. We just connected. We found each other at this event. She's talking to me and she's, so what are you into? I'm telling her about my work. She's telling me a little bit about, she's asking some leading questions. And I'm like, this woman's got something. This is really fascinating. It's not quite the personal development work that I've done in a business or professional setting. This feels like something else. I didn't have the term, I wouldn't have called it spiritual or anything like that, but I took one of her classes and she's teaching me all about like how we have these signals and these signs inside of us and ways to follow intuition and knowing that that's this divine guidance coming from outside of us, somewhere leading. And I was like, wow, I really feel connected to this work. And it was just that one simple class where I was like, I started to learn about all the different senses we carry from all the different clairs, if you will, like the clairvoyance, the clairsentience, all the different ways that information comes into your body, whether you have a very vivid imagination or you feel these senses like a deep knowing, which is what I carry in me, just like a deep knowing. And I just learned, I was like, wow, this has opened the doors to a whole new universe of information, of lanes to go and practice in. And I always think back to that time because it was kind of the door that opened me up to, okay, this like world that we live in where we just go to work and then we do stuff and then we're just kind of disconnected from ourselves. Like it doesn't have to be that way. And we can really open up our hearts and listen to this divine guidance. And it was more of my connection, like where I'm like, okay, God, universe, spirit, like there's so much more. And so I felt very blessed to be able to have given that opportunity, the door opening into that entire world. And you're right, I have a bunch more, so I could continue on that question, but that was the real big one for me.
Yeah. So I heard again of just like that being a spark of sensing something in that connection, in that conversation that made you say to yourself, I want to learn more. And you took a class and you started opening yourself up to new perspectives. And all of a sudden, that completely expanded your view, gave you new ideas, gave you this new opening to connection with spirit and the universe. And it sounds like it just changed the trajectory of your life, potentially, of being able to access this world that you weren't accessing before.
Absolutely. It completely changed the trajectory. It completely opened me up to realizing that there is this unique gift that I have to share with the world. And no one's going to come down and be like, well, Samantha, this is the day we've got your written up. I've laid out the plan and now all you need to do is do it. It's like the practice is trying to get closer and closer by listening to the information that we have coming to us, both through meditation, through prayer, through movement, through action. And that to me was like, hey, you have a spark and there's something very special you have to bring to it. And so let's start a practice of following that. And oh yeah, totally changed my life. I mean, goodness, I might be in the corporate dungeons still of my mind. I mean, I work a job still, a 9 to 5, but there is a completely different mindset I have about the world, about reality, about what I am doing here. And it's been beautiful.
Oh my gosh, so good. So I am curious, do you work in tech? Like how, yeah, do you work in tech? And also on the kind of flip side of that, were you always into the moon? I'm really curious about both of those things.
I do work in tech. That has been my professional skill. So funny enough, we actually have a bit of a connection still. So I have a interior design degree. So
Oh,
I actually studied a lot of interior design, a lot of feng shui, a lot of like the movement through spaces. And as I got in further into that career, I went into app design.
okay.
So, from interior design of spaces into this digital space, which we all
Mhm.
find ourselves in, which has a much different approach, but is still a very similar feeling of the way that you navigate an app and you move through an app. It's very similar to how you move through a space and
Mhm.
what energy is cultivated in that experience and how you can empathize and put emotion and feeling into it.
Mhm.
So I went into tech for the majority of my career. I've been in this app design space for about 10 years now. And the bridge between tech and moon came for me when I was living in Blacksburg, Virginia. I don't know, have you ever been to Blacksburg, Virginia?
No.
Okay, so Blacksburg, Virginia is this huge, wide open space. It's not
Mm.
near us in the DMV. This several hours in, closer to where West Virginia is. And the only thing in this town is Virginia Tech. So they have a huge college there, but it's really only a college. That's the main event in Blacksburg. But otherwise, there's just these wide open spaces, like mountainous hills. There's farmland. There's horses. There's cows. There's just space. And I found myself out here in Blacksburg, Virginia, still practicing tech.
Mhm.
And I was like, I think that was the first time since being outside of like a city area where I was like, wow, you can just go outside and just
Mm.
drink up the stars. You can drink up the moon. There was something about my time, my 2 years spent in Blacksburg, that
Mm.
really just connected me to the natural land in a way that I hadn't been before. So previously
Mm.
I grew up, lived in DC, and then I lived in Charlotte for a while. And then I found myself in this kind of wide open space. And I'm like, this is beautiful. How did
Mm.
I not know this is what it could feel like to go out on a walk at night and you see all the stars, you see the moon. I was like, she's speaking to me. She's telling me something and I don't know what it is yet. But I found myself in this group of women that would go out and do yoga underneath the stars. We would howl to the moon. We would get all these like neighbor dogs howling with us. It was just beautiful, and some moon circles there too. So that's when I was like, I'm in this flow. I have all this space. I've always worked a job and had side projects on the side. And so I was like, I do apps for a living. I know how to do this work. And suddenly I am so inspired by the moon. And I
Mm.
had this intuition group that I was in at the time. And so I said, hey guys, I took the weekend and I was just playing around with some of these concepts we've learned about the moon. I put it into this little clickable prototype that was just simple on my phone. And I brought it to them and they're like, this is amazing. This is so cool. Can we use it? And so I spun up a little cute version of it. I let them use it. And this app turned into Moonifest over all this time. And so that was really where I got to, I feel really grateful for my time spent in Blacksburg because I think back to it even now and I'm like, the spark that came was how connected I felt to the world around me. And just maybe it was a reminder too of how disconnected I had been living and
Mm.
trying to find that bridge where, even after my time in Blacksburg, how do I keep this spark? How do I keep following that feeling that I felt where, we're all one? And so that was kind of the evolution of where those two met.
I love it. Oh my gosh. And there's so many things I'm curious about. One, I think a lot about masculine and feminine energies and like the yin and the yang, and the masculine being the structure, the logic, the analytical side of us, and then the yin being this intuitive flow, spirit, all of that. So one thing that's really interesting, that another similarity that we have, I used to work in advertising, specifically in interactive advertising, like working
Oh,
with all
okay.
kinds of, I'm like forgetting all of the terms now, like UX designers and all of
Yeah.
these things of like how you said creating apps is similar to interior design. Like I thought a lot about that in the work that I did many and like lifetimes ago. And on one hand, I feel like these are different sides of us, or those energies, and yet you're bringing them together in these incredibly beautiful ways. And had you not been in this world of tech and app design, you never would have been able to create this app that now is this structure for intuition and flow. And I don't know, I'm curious if anything comes to your mind as you hear me talking about this, or like how you relate to the masculine and feminine, the yin and the yang, if you think about that in any of the work that you do.
Oh, of course, and thank you for those kind words you said. So, when I was doing all of these intuition groups, I was in groups of amazing women, psychic women, intuitive readers, intuitive tarot readers, past life regressionists, Akashic record readers. I mean, I was just blown away, and in fact, I didn't even feel like I felt like I belonged there in a lot of senses. And
Mm,
so there was so much tension that I felt, and I think back to that time, there was so much internal tension where I was like, when are my gifts coming online? They need to come online. I'm late to the party. And
mm,
it was all of this pressure, like
mhm.
for no good reason. It was all of this pressure to be like every one of these women that I'm in groups with. And it's funny because I talk to them and they're, what are you talking about? That's not how it works. And I'm like, but I feel like I'm behind. And all of that to say that I really didn't have an appreciation for the natural craft that I had, which was app design. Like that
Mhm.
didn't go away just because I entered the spiritual world and I'm starting to come online to the other gifts that I had. And it was just this silly, internal bubble of I'm not good enough, I don't belong, of all this stuff.
Yeah.
And again, like that's why, sometimes that spark of where we think doesn't fit, sometimes that's just, your internal imposter syndrome, like the stuff,
Yeah.
like your old stuff. And so that's why it's such a practice to figure out like which of these signs are real and true, or which ones are just like kind of nudging you to stay. And I always stayed in the groups. I would always, talk, and these women were amazing. And so there was nothing that ever really took over me in that sense, but it was definitely a little bit of a fight of my own intuition coming online to say you have a very unique,
Mhm.
beautiful set of overlapping skill sets, and one does not cancel the other.
Yeah.
They work together. And so that was a lot of the bridging that came together where I'm like, the gifts that I have to bring to the world, can maybe they're meant to come through tech. And it was just that one question, and I'm like, okay, what does that mean? And now
Yeah.
I get to follow that spark and try and figure out what that means for me. And if there was no one doing it and I didn't quite have a template for what that looked like out in the space, even better. Like
Yes.
even better. What am I going to do wrong in that regard, So bringing these two things together, just when you talked about the merging of those gifts, that was definitely a struggle for me. That was something that I
Mm.
had to overcome. It was something I pushed through in order to not abandon that part of myself where I'm like, this, I love design. I love design. I love art. I love getting to practice that. And when we get into that, both the structure and the flow aspect of it, that totally comes online for me where I'm like, I have this structural gift of
Mm.
tech, of the container that I'm able to build in, of having the UX design skill, of having user research skill, and then also being able to flow in the way that I bring that forth through its container. So the yin being like my voice, my design, my aesthetic, like the way I want my brand to feel. And I'm sure that you already know some of this, but the moon is this very rhythmic guide. She moves within an entire cycle of about 29, like 30 days ish. And so her hormonal cycle takes 30 days to come around the bend, whereas the sun, in its masculine form, it operates on a 24-hour cycle,
Mm.
which these both mirror our men and women hormonal cycles, for
Mm.
better or worse. We all have masculine and feminine energies within us, but the moon is following her path on this 30-day cycle. Sun is following this 24-hour cycle. And so we
Mm.
see this daily rise, and then we see this longer evolution of,
Mm.
the ways that we're able to kind of understand how to work and just respect these energies. Your masculine energy can reset on the 24-hour cycle. Your feminine energy can reset on the 30-day cycle, and you
Mm.
can give yourself space to flow between these things when you're working with structure and when you're working with flow. And I think that's a really beautiful, just the mirror that we are mirrored in nature everywhere, and we can pull from that inspiration. We can pull the lessons and the wisdom if we look out and we're like, oh wait, we're all connected. Law of divine oneness.
Oh my God, so beautiful. And yeah, like I said, I've just been thinking deeper and deeper for I feel like many years now about this balance of like structure and flow. And you talked about practice a lot, like practice tuning into your intuition, practice noticing the senses that you're experiencing in your body. And I think sometimes, and even me, like 6, 7 years ago, I was like, yeah, but how do I strengthen my intuition? What if it's not talking to me? And I just went on this deep dive mission to explore practices to help me do that. And I think that's where the structure comes in. Because if people are
I
not
love that.
hearing the signs or making time to see the signs, we can miss them. So an app like Moonifest is the structure of, okay, every day I'm going to sit with it. I'm going to think about this. I'm going to write an intention. And that can be the support system that helps strengthen the flow. So I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. And the one thing you said, which was definitely a part of my journey, which is how to discern intuition
Mm,
and like how to discern even what's anxiety, what's intuition, what's the good energy, like heightened energy, and what's that bad heightened energy.
yeah.
And it's all a practice of coming back to yourself. One really easy practice that I give people for this is that sometimes when we are, and I fall guilty to this all the time where I'm like, I need my life's path. I need to know what direction I take. And it's like you take on this huge mountain. You're like, I need to know what huge mountain is coming before me. And we're like, why don't I know the signs? And that's a really tough ask. That's a really tough ask for
Yeah.
anyone.
Pausing this interview for a moment to share that if you're ready to reconnect to that spark inside of you and take inspired actions towards what's calling you forward, I have a coaching program designed to help you do just that. It's called Own Your Becoming. Over this 6 month journey, will help you build confidence and courage from the inside out so that you can take inspired actions towards your dreams from a place of passion, not pressure. So, if you're ready for that kind of support in your life and you want to learn more, go to ginakesbar.com/own your becoming. I offer free clarity calls where we'll spend time illuminating your vision, getting clear on what is it that you desire and what's the essence, the why that lights you up. Then we'll explore what are the obstacles or challenges that are getting in your way. And so often they are much different than what you might think they are. So we'll get clear about that. And then once I have that full picture, I'll be able to share with you the tools and practices and support systems that I believe could serve you most to work towards that vision and to help you feel the way that you want to feel now without needing some external thing in order to feel happy or successful. So, like I said, if you're ready to take inspired actions and create the life of your dreams one day, one step at a time, let's talk. Go to ginakesbar.com/own your becoming, book one of these free clarity calls, and we'll explore it together. I've got a couple more spots left on my calendar in February. I'm going to Costa Rica tomorrow. So if you're hearing this and you want one of those spots, check my calendar, and I can't wait to talk to you soon. All right, now let's get back to the interview.
The easiest practice to start learning your intuition is to ask yourself small questions throughout the day and then listen for the response. So something as easy as, am I hungry or do I need a glass of water?
Mm,
If I am hungry, am I craving something with salt, with sugar, with fat? Am I needing a snack or am I needing something more sustainable? Do I feel like taking a walk or do I feel like sitting down? And so you just ask yourself these like little questions. You're like, can I start to trust just like the
mm,
little tiny things? And if you do, if you follow that thing and you're like, the glass of water felt really good, then you're like, ding, point for you, yay. Like you did it. You listened, you found something that felt good and you're like, whatever that feeling was, that's it. That's the thing you're going to follow. And so 1 hour out, 1 day out, 1 week out, just make it even smaller. If you're finding those blockages come up, make it like, what do I need in this minute? And see if you
yeah.
can see where you're being led.
So good. Yeah. And I work with clients about this all the time. Exactly what you said of this desire for, yeah, but where am I going to be 10 years from now? How is it all going to work out? And wanting to figure that out first before taking the steps. And I'm sure at the beginning of your tech journey, you had no idea that you
No
were going
idea.
to create this Moonifest app. And it was just from following, I don't know how you ended up in Virginia, but being able to just follow the flow of your life and follow those small sparks of intuition every single day. And then some days, and they're rarer than the small days, we get the like epiphany or
Yeah.
the download or like a bigger spark. But 99% of the time, we're just following the tiny breadcrumbs one at a time.
Yeah. I love that. I love it.
And I'm curious too, I share a lot of different intuitive practices to answer the questions that you just said. And do you have any favorite things? Like I do a lot of muscle testing or intuitive journaling. If someone's listening and they're like, yeah, okay, if I ask myself, do I want water or do I want food? How do I know?
Yeah. Oh, I love it. So, one thing that I do as my own practice is intuitive writing. So, I love intuitive writing. I love to be in a meditative state and then not quite come out of it and then open up my journal and start writing and, taking even moments to go back into meditation if something's not coming and then letting it come back out, getting into that very kind of like glossy chill state where I still have my skills to be able to open up, discern what's coming through, but like I'm not quite asking for, I'm not writing from my head, I'm writing from my heart. And I'm a big believer that your body all intertwined, like using your physical hand and a physical piece of paper is so awesome. It's so awesome. I know we will go on our computers, we'll write everything we need to write and get it all digitized. But for that intuitive piece, it's like a really beautiful thing to kind of let your hand literally follow the motion of the words and see if you can let that physical practice come through. That, in addition to maybe having like for that glass of water exercise, I would say put the options in front of you and see which one your body is naturally being attuned to. Because for me, and I'm very much in a sensory, I'm a feeler. So being able to feel the energy of things in front of me is also sometimes how I'm able to make decisions where I'm like, I have this and I have this, and let's see where it goes. For someone who's more imaginative or they have a stronger connection to like third eye, I would say let's go through an imaginary exercise. Let's actually walk through the day if you were to go and get up and go to this coffee shop and work. And then let's have the imagination if you were to, stay home or go into the office and see your coworkers, like what feelings are sort of starting to come up, and
Mm,
see if you can discern some of your answers. And I think that's the fun part is you follow like what feels
yeah,
good to you. And part of the excitement, like part of the fun is like, I get to
yeah,
try all these practices. Like what else can I try?
yeah. Yeah. And that's, I feel like, such an important piece that, again, the brain wants certainty, it wants proof. So sometimes trying intuitive journaling, let's say one time, might not give you enough information. So, especially if you're at the beginning of a journey where you're developing a relationship with your intuition, I would say, too, of be willing to experiment multiple times, be willing to try different things. And again, this is about you can bring in the logic and the intuition. So take notes like a scientist or
Yeah.
like a researcher or an experimenter. Be like, okay, when I tried this, I got this response. And then I followed that spark and this happened. Like it's a thing that I do with my clients all the time is tracking that evidence so that we can build the belief in the brain too that it's safe to trust my intuition. This is
Yeah.
what happens when I trust my intuition. So I love that, you gave multiple examples. You can tune into your emotions and do that visualization and see, am I excited to go to the coffee shop today? Or am I excited to go into the office? And see what feelings you sense in your body and just experiment and see what happens. So thanks for sharing those tools.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, one thing I did want to ask is about this arc of creation and the highs and lows that you might have experienced as you were birthing Moonifest into the world. And then, I have a lot of listeners, a lot of clients who have big dreams. Maybe there's projects they want to create or things they want to do. Is there anything from your journey of having this idea to then creating it and releasing it? I don't know, biggest lessons that you learned, biggest insights that you want to share right now. What was that like?
Yeah. 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 The path of bringing Moonifest into form has been almost a 5-year journey for me at this point. So if we rewind up until that point where I was like, I made this little version of the app, I shared it with my intuition group, women loved it. They started sharing it with a couple more friends. And mind you, this wasn't a full, big bulky app. I didn't have scalability for this thing. This was a little tiny thing. So they sent it and it started to gain a little bit of traction. And then a couple of those women started sharing it. And then this thing just blew up over 2 years. And I wasn't marketing it because I couldn't really support it in a large scale. I loved it. I mean, I was flattered, but I was also like, what's going on? I don't really know what to do now. And then people are writing support tickets and they're like, this is broken. Or, some people were like, this is beautiful. Thank you. What else can I do? And it was this bit of influx where I was like, what did I do? This is good. And also I'm overwhelmed. I wasn't making money off of this. There was no real business plan. It wasn't a business plan.
Yeah.
This was just creation pouring out of me. And the fact that this came through with so much fun, so much joy, so much open space, no expectation for what this was going to be. I was like, can I just make something cool and fun for me and my ladies, for our moon circle? And it was just pure play. And I think that's the biggest thing that I can share in terms of getting your idea out into the world. Now, I'm not giving that advice to say, just play, just stay in enjoyment forever, especially when you're building a business. But when you are in that energy of, I'm having fun with this. It is fun to tap into it every day. It is fun to share it with someone, even before it's ready. It's fun to hear, what someone else has to say about it. You generate all of this amazing energy behind your idea. And then also you leave so much room for what could this be? Where does it want to go? Not my will, but thy will. And I'm going to leave some space for it to happen. And being in that energy of fun and play. And then there was a bit of pressure because now I have this app. I scaled it to us. It hit the glass ceiling, started breaking the ceiling. Glass shards started falling down on everyone in Moonifest. They're like, why isn't it working? The notifications don't work. This doesn't work. This doesn't work. And so many people came in and I felt like I had failed them. I'm like, I didn't mean to have a not scalable product here. This was totally out of my hands. It blew up in the most beautiful way. And then it reached a kind of pressure point where I'm like, the things that we want to bring through the world, it was such a beautiful response that this is wanted, this is needed. And now the question was Samantha, are you going to fill bigger shoes? Are we going to start filling some bigger shoes here? Or do you just want it to stay, small? Do you want to play small?
Wow.
Do you, the question was, what do you want to do from here? You validated your idea. You did one thing. Now what are you going to do? And that process of taking it out of this kind of small scale space, which it was in for about 2 to 3 years, and then going into this bigger space was a huge shift, because that means there's a whole new energetic investment. It means there's a whole new financial investment. It means shifting my skill set from what I knew how to do all on my own in this one bucket. And it meant opening it up to help. It meant researching how to do more for the people who I want to serve. It meant learning new technology that I didn't know how to use. It meant opening up my capacity for what do I have the capacity to hold? Can this brand, can this idea, can this hold more people than I initially thought? And quite honestly, we as creators, I think we really feel a grief process in what we have to kind of die to, the versions we have to shed of ourselves to say that version that built Moonifest, she was beautiful and joyous and fun. And now I need to shed that so that I can step into a new skin that's going to really allow me to lead this into the future. And I remember thinking, it's so hard. Why is this hard? And it's not fun anymore because now there's this and that. And the truth is that's one of those things too, where I start getting in my head. I'm like, am I pushing? Is this the right push? And it's, again, the practice of to be in devotion to your business, to your brand, to the people who you're serving is not to let those struggles bring you down and bring you down into the place of giving up. I would actually say let them bring you down if they need to bring you down for a little bit. Go down there and know what information is coming up so that you can bring it back to the surface and really face it head on. Put your insecurity right there at the table with you. Say, hey girl, you're coming with me today. We're going to go on a little journey and you're going to feel uncomfortable, but we're doing this and we're going to keep going. And so I definitely don't having all of those people come and break my app for better or worse, like that was the message. Why would that have happened if
Mhm.
this wasn't made for bigger shoes, for a bigger space for me to call in? And so anytime I hit those hurdles, I'm remembering Rome wasn't built in a day. This can't be built in a day. You're doing something that has foundation, you're building in foundation, and that is going to, just like a relationship, just a practice that you're working on, it requires you to show up. It requires you to show up with your heart, with everything that you've got, even when things are difficult. And that's
Mhm.
just so hard to talk about as a creator, because you're like, what do you how do you kind of voice these feelings when, as they're coming up, as they're showing up for your independent struggle, when you're like, but I'm leading this brand, I'm leading this purpose behind me, and we do fall down and we face struggle, and it's just like a beautiful part of the journey. It's like, just
Mhm.
come along for the ride.
Yeah, so good. So, knowing that this isn't your day job, why did you say yes? Like that moment where you could have played small, you could have either just like kept it small or just let that be a fun project that you tried. Why did you keep going even in the moments where you're like, this is hard now?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good question, because there's so many different routes. I mean, I asked myself all the time, I said, was this just a project that was meant to scale and then die, and then we go and do something else? And it was my practice into devotion specifically, where I feel like what I was meant to call through was so much more than just the moon manifesting as itself. Like, I'm also bringing forth like what it is to be a creator, the transmission of what it's like to have the blend of a voice and a technical skill, and how we push that forward. It's also about this idea that intention setting and manifestation and the moon cycles, they're all something that's running on our subconscious all day, every day, whether we tune into it or not. And so, what it really comes back to is, are we getting into alignment? Are we trusting ourselves? Are we able to follow the things that call to us? And are we able to nurture them? Because at the end of the day, what grows is what we nurture, right? And so, when I kept putting all this pressure on Moonifest to succeed, or to do something to build foundation, I'm like, this is just the mirror for what I am planting in myself.
Yeah.
If everyone from Moonifest and we start moving in this other direction that calls for something else, let's flow. Let's do it. Let's see where the tides are taking us, quite literally. But as of right now, like, this is the feedback that I've gotten from this huge swath of people who said, we think you have something valuable to offer. And so this is also my practice of the moon, the manifesting, all of this wisdom I've gained. This needs an outlet. And I have this idea, I have this brand, I have this thing that has always lit me up. And if I could even share that and bring it back to people, to remind them of their spark, of their intuition, of the way that we can move through cycles, give ourselves some grace, set an intention, see where it takes us, and then come back down and rest. That's a beautiful message. And so the message of it is really, can we appreciate and honor our cycles? Can we set some intentions for following what it is we want to call in? And then can we give it all back to God and really come back into the space that we are just in flow, and none of us know
Mhm.
anything. None of us know the magic sauce for where we're going. We are just practicing and flowing.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So I feel like I had a massive epiphany last year about manifestation. And I feel like I heard it reflected in what you just said now. So I'm curious what resonates with you when I say this. So when I think about manifestation, I think about when people think about manifestation, they might think it's about getting what I want. I have a dream, I make a vision board, and manifestation means like I get this thing and I'm like aiming for this thing. And yet, for me, I've done a lot of work in manifesting of uncovering why something matters. Like the form matters much less than the actual essence of what you value, what deeply matters, and being able to feel those
Yeah.
sensations now. And you talked about being in this state of pure play, pure fun. And when you were in that space, incredible things started unfolding. And you weren't aiming for an app that's going to reach 60,000 people. You were aiming for this feels fun, this feels joyful, this is lighting me up. So, while on one hand, I understood that, and I feel like manifestation was easy for me in many, many areas of my life, other than business sometimes.
Mm.
Because what I noticed is with business and with career things, I might have goals or financial goals or different things. And while I was deeply trying to get into the energy of like play and service and
Mhm.
contribution, and all of those things, there was still a part of me that was attached to the goal.
Yeah.
I wanted it and made it mean all kinds of things if I did or didn't reach it. So as much as I was like trying to get into the energy over here, there was still that layer of attachment. And I feel like it hit me in a whole new way in 2025 because I was doing all of this work about owning my becoming, embracing my journey, like loving myself exactly as I am, and really not needing the thing to be happy, not needing that external goal to feel fulfilled or successful. So, what I'm hearing and what you're saying, and what I think about manifestation now is instead of, I still have goals in my business, but
You
instead
got to.
of holding on to that goal, I've been asking myself, who do I get to become in pursuit of that goal?
Mm.
And now that
That.
is my goal every single day. So when I think of who it would require me to become to reach my business goals, the words that came to my mind is a bold leader. And I have all this whole vision of what that bold leader does, thinks, embodies. So
Mhm.
when you were talking about building this app and taking it to the next level and it being a mirror for you, and there was this like pressure to succeed, and it's like the kind of like grit polishing the diamond kind of energy.
Yeah.
I really heard that part of it is about who you get to become moving through this. And if you had just quit and let it be easy, like you wouldn't get to go through that tension of growth, of the breakdown of the muscles to build it back up. So, yeah, I'm curious of if you can speak to what comes up for you in terms of manifestation and where you feel like maybe sometimes people get tripped up with manifestation, and if there's any like biggest insights you've had of this was like a huge breakthrough that helped me manifest.
Totally. Yeah. I love everything you just said because I went through that exact same process. Especially when I first learned about manifestation, it was everything to do with the law of attraction. A lot of people talk about law of attraction. We're talking about manifesting because the law of attraction states that like attracts like. So that could be as simple as, when I started practicing this, I would practice with really little exercises. So something like you practice on visualizing a quarter, and then you're walking down the street, you find a quarter pop up, and then you start bringing it into a little bit more and you start visualizing this and you see this pop up. And I was so excited. I was like, what type of sorcery is this? Like, this is sick. This is sick. This must be how everyone like manifests all their stuff. So then I'm like trying it on these like greater levels. And it's actually really funny because it worked in so much as they would come into my purview and then they just loop right back around and leave.
Mm.
And the purpose is that, or the reason why that typically happens and why we can get really excited about this law of I want, or this process of I want this and I want to call this in, is that just because you desire a Aston Martin vehicle, it doesn't mean you have the capacity to hold what that is. That might be a financial capacity. It might be an energetic capacity. It might be you don't feel like the type of person that could truly, feel comfortable driving that car around, not being in fear that someone's going to scratch it, or I don't want to do this, or it needs to be my special baby. There's all of these different things that play into manifestation more than the law of attraction, because when you learn how to attract things into your life, it doesn't mean they will stay. And so
Mm.
that happens with, when we try and do that in terms of a job, and you call in this job that you really thought you wanted, and then you're totally overwhelmed, you're stressed, you hate this job, and you're like, what's going on? I wanted this. And it's, well, I don't know. Are you facing something that just needs to be worked through? Are you building capacity? Or did we force our own individual will into existence because we learned that we had some power there? And there is a little bit of power dynamic in play, because I do believe we are powerful enough to create our entire reality around us, like to the T.
Mm.
But then the question is that what your soul, is that what is truly meant for you? Is that aligned with God? Are you paying attention to these lessons? Are you allowing the form, as you said, to manifest as whatever it needs to be? So Moonifest really became the space where I was like, it was very fun to practice with the quarter and, everything else that came into my purview as a result of visualization. But then I got into the point where when we're practicing really aligned and grounded manifestation, we're calling in the things that are attracting us on that soul level. So it's the process of really getting aligned with what your truth is and having your outward reality match that. And so for manifestation, aside from the law of attraction, there's all these other universal laws that come into play. There's the law of correspondence, where your inward reality reflects your outward reality. There's the law of divine oneness, that we are all connected. There's law of cause and effect. There's law of inspired action. There's so many different things to play with when you think about the idea of loosening your grip on what it is that you desire, even if it's a business goal. Like, I want to have 10,000 customers this month, or 1,000, or whatever your number is. And then you say, okay, if that is the business goal, what is it that is aligned within me that's going to make this an outward reality? And to your point, capacity. What do I have capacity for, and what is actually going to feel really aligned and beautiful and true for me in a way where I show up for all those people? So something that I teach through the Moonifest messaging is that an intention is the energy behind a goal. So if you use a really simple one, like, I want to lose 20 pounds in terms of weight loss. So that's a really tangible thing. But in intention setting and manifesting, we don't care about the outward thing. We care about what is the energy you're trying to embody by losing that weight. It could be anything. It could be something like, I want to feel confident in my body. Beautiful. That's your intention. We are not looking at the scale. We are not measuring that by anything other than you waking up every day and feeling confident in your body. And we're going to call that energy in, and we're going to focus on it as an intention. It could be anything of the sort, but it's focusing on that feeling that you want to embody, and then training your heart and your headspace and your belief system to really align and say, I want to feel confident in my body. Oh, I am feeling confident in my body. And then the Moonifest practice itself is, so you set this intention on the new moon. The moon will move through its 8 different phases. And through each of these phases, we do something very specific in order to align our thoughts and our beliefs and our heart energy with that intention. And I give you an example of what that looks like through the whole moon phase. But that starting with a goal is a really good place to start, because you at least know what it is in the outward world you want to manifest. And we're we're humans. We're always going to do that. We can't help it. That's the way we understand reality. So start there, and then just shift your focus. Use it as a starting point, because every seed of desire was planted in you. If it's already in you, then it's there. You can't do anything about it. And I'm sorry for that. But that's also a really good thing, because it means that you now have whatever it is that you're focusing on manifesting through the external world. It has nothing to do with that. And that's the good news. The good news is it has absolutely nothing to do with if you call that thing in. It's if you're bringing yourself into the capacity, into the belief system that is going to be able to carry that thing.
So good. And I feel like that's such the key. And I have understood that on different levels. And as time passes, I'm like getting it on more of an embodied level every single day. And it's like what I support my clients with. Again, instead of being attached to the goal, like, how do you practice feeling good in my body every day, even if your goal is to lose 20 pounds? But I think what I realized in different capacities, before I understood or really knew how to embrace my feelings and feel my feelings, when I first was diving into practices of like, how do I feel my feelings, I had the intention of, I'm going to learn to feel my feelings so that they go away. So that like bad and uncomfortable feelings go away as quickly as possible. So I feel, and of course that doesn't work. And it's like, I could see the same thing happening with manifestation. It's okay, great. So I'm going to practice feeling good in my body so that I lose 20 pounds. And I think you have to let go of the so that. And it's like, whether you lose 20 pounds or not, you get to feel, you get what you want. You get to feel
Exactly.
good in your body. You get to love yourself. And that's the key to manifestation. That's, whether paradoxical or whatever you could call it, that it's not about getting the thing. And it's just really about who you get to be every single day, and knowing that we have control over that. And we can transform ourselves from the inside out. And when we do that, the external world inevitably becomes a mirror for what we're already feeling. And so often we get what we want and beyond what we could have even fathomed, because we're already living that way and we don't need it anymore.
I love that. What just came to and you said that was like you might not get what you think you want, but you always get what you need. Like you will. That is the divine, like that's the most beautiful thing to have faith in, is that like you are always at every point going to get what you need. And just like you said, if you're not losing the 20 pounds, like congrats, like that's your feedback, that it was never about that number. It was never about that external fixation on wanting this to be true. What you are going to get in return is feeling great in your body and bringing your focus away from the external desire and more into your body of what am I needing, because I'm 100% certain that you're beautiful in your body. Like the focusing on losing weight is putting so much pressure on yourself to meet this expectation, and maybe what your body is really telling you is I need self-love. That is what matters more than the number.
Yeah, and I'm sure you never would have chosen your app to have a massive breakdown when thousands of people downloaded it. And you also likely wouldn't have gone down the path to learn all those new skills and grow your capacity
Yeah,
had you not been met with that challenge. So it's like the universe is supporting us to grow in the way that we need to, even if we don't understand in the moment or it feels uncomfortable. Like you needed that growth edge to be able to expand into your next level. So I think about that a lot.
absolutely. Yeah. And I had some amazing people that I worked with, amazing engineers that supported me, that believed in me, that taught me along the way. I mean, it's also the connections you make along the way. It was like such an incredible period of opening that capacity, meeting the people who were going to inspire me to love into the project, to care for it, to nurture it, to show me how to practice working some of those muscles. And that's the beauty of it, which is if I was just thinking about the external, I would forget like all these blessings that are coming to me, like the amazing opportunity of that I get to talk about, like knowing and owning what my tech stack is. When I used to have one little thing that made this little tiny platform of an app, and now I have all this interconnected web, and I'm like, wow, I can actually understand and speak to the foundation that I'm building, and I feel empowered about it. I know how to work these things, and just the teaching and everyone who I have encountered through it has been really beautiful, and I'm really grateful for everyone who's touched Moonifest.
So good. So I feel like I could talk to you for hours. And as we're nearing the end of this conversation, I would love if you could talk about how people can download this app. And this episode is coming out right before the Lunar New Year, the solar
Mm-hmm.
eclipse. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
curious how you're using Moonifest with these big like lunar events coming up soon.
Yeah, definitely. So Moonifest is available on download. If you have an iPhone, you'll go to the App Store. If you have an Android phone, you'll go to the Play Store. You download Moonifest, you pick which hemisphere you're in, so we give you the right accurate moon data. And then the way that you use the app is to use it as a guide as you're moving through the moon phases. So when you're manifesting, we always start with an intention, and the intention is best set on the new moon. And like you just said, we're coming up on the new moon on Tuesday, which is Lunar New Year as well. And it's a solar eclipse. So this is like an awesome, awesome time. And I love that we're doing this on Friday the 13th too. It was like all these like mystical numbers are aligning. So in the app, you start by setting an intention on the new moon, and then the app is going to notify you on each day that the moon phase changes. And the moon phase changes every 3 to 4 days, and it goes through 8 phases of the moon. So you take that intention on the new moon, you rise into the waxing crescent where you're going to start planning what that looks like. You know, you're still in this yin energy. You're not taking action, but you're going to plan what it looks like. You're going to go into the first quarter moon where you start to take some inspired action. And there's a law of inspired action, which there will be more to get to. The waxing gibbous then goes into refinement. What do you need to change about your approach to understanding your intention? And again, like these can be very subtle shifts. These don't have to be big, huge moves. You don't need to be, booking tickets to another country and go on a retreat. Like these can be really subtle things, like I need to be a little nicer to myself when I look in the mirror. That can be a beautiful change that you make on the waxing gibbous. Full moon reaches its peak of illumination, so that's really a time to just celebrate, appreciate everything that you've done towards your intention, all the internal work and the external work. And then you go in your waning phase where the moon starts to dissipate, and you go into your waning gibbous where you really reflect in gratitude. You go into your last quarter moon where you really look over the entire circuit that you've taken and really reflect on your journey. And then the final phase of the waxing crescent, which we're in right now, which is you're just in a resting phase. You're like allowing the energy to clear out. There's no expectation. You are focusing on self-care. You're almost like, if you think of it as a garden, you're kind of just preparing the soil to be worked on again. You're taking out all this brush out, you're taking any old leaves out, and you're just preparing this beautiful new space for when you do come to the new moon. You're going to come and sit in this garden, you're going to plant something new and beautiful and make some room for it. So Moonifest will alert you on each of these moon phase changes. There's also some community features like answering a daily question of reflection, and it's anonymous, so people, you can be as specific as you'd like in there. There's also a daily vibe of the day where you can go and jam out to a song that the community is listening to. And there's a lot of really fun features that are coming to Moonifest. So we're still just getting started with it, and a lot more to get to come in terms of the app. And so more specifically though, for Lunar New Year, there's going to be a intention setting series that is done. So if you download Moonifest app before or on or within a couple of days of the Lunar New Year, there will be an opt-in to go along with a intention setting journey for Lunar New Year, for setting your intention, really understanding a bit of the collective energy that you can tap into for this specific moon. And so we're entering the year of the horse for Lunar New Year. And also, if you're not familiar, like Lunar New Year does not follow our typical calendar system. And so part of that is that we're still coming out of winter. And so if you didn't set a goal or a New Year's resolution on January 1st, like, you're not behind, you're right on time. This is a beautiful place to start. This is the new year that I follow. So this is now coming into the new year where you can really take some embodied energy forward, and you're not behind at all. So don't carry any of that. And so then as we go into the Lunar New Year, we're going into the year of the horse. And this is something that when I was sitting with it, I was thinking about myself approaching a horse. And if you've ever been in the presence of a horse, horses are so powerful, like beautiful creatures, but you approach them and you feel just this raw power of like, I am just a little human, and this like animal in front of me, like this beautiful being, has so much raw, gentle power for it just to exist here on the earth. And the way that you approach a horse with any animal, but especially one that's so like big and huge and powerful, like you do so with reverence. Like you can't just roll up on a horse and mount it and then start telling it what to do. Like that horse will let you know.
Yeah.
I'm sure that horse will let you know. And so it's really about carrying a reverent energy through this year. And something that we'll do through the Moonifest practice is that we'll take this energy of the horse, but it really helps to personalize what it means to you specifically. And so we're going to do a practice to kind of bring that energy down into our bodies, set our intention for the year ahead, something that embodies more of the feeling of what we want to bring through, rather than, we're trying to meet this external goal, or we want to read more, or we want to do whatever. Those are great things to keep in your repertoire for goal setting, but we're going to bring that back into our bodies and say, what energy do we want to align with this, and how can we set our intention to really follow that? And so it'll be juicy. It'll be really, really just a sensual practice. Get inside yourself. You can't do anything wrong when you're doing any of these intuitive practices. It is just that, a practice. And the more you get into it, the better you feel and the more flow you have. So I'm really excited for that series coming up. And so, yeah, Lunar New Year, February 17th.
What a beautiful offering. And everything that you just described is available through the app. Like they'll get notices or notifications of all those things that you talked about.
Yep. So when you download the app, you'll be automatically into the newsletter. You'll get all the emails that show you everything that's coming up. And then you'll also have notifications within the app itself to draw you back in there and do your reflections, follow along with the moon phases. Just make sure you have those turned on. You have to opt into those. And yeah, you'll be along for the ride.
Oh my God, so good. I can't wait to explore them myself. And just thank you for following these sparks and sharing this beautiful gift with the world in a way that only you could, with your incredibly unique skill set. So this is the power of following our spark and not judging ourselves and our unique path. So I'm just so grateful that you shared this with the world.
Thank you. Thank you for following your spark and just shining your spark. I mean, like I said, we met each other and we were just like, there's something here. And there was just like a natural attraction there, and just your energy just brings so much light and positivity. And I really appreciate all the work that you're doing. And thank you to everyone who's listening, and for you, Gina, for having me on.
Last question. If there was one thing that you wanted people to remember that is coming through you right now, what would you want to leave them with?
Mm. That you are the best person to make decisions for yourself. That when we outsource our intuition and we outsource our decision making, whether it's that cup of water, or should I go on this trip or should we do that, that we give our power away a little bit. We give our power away every time we don't trust and believe in ourselves. And so the more we trust and believe in the information that is coming through with us, the more we tap into that power, the more we align ourselves with our divine nature, we come closer into trust. And that is where our spark is eventually going to lead us to the most fruitful places. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So good. Thank you so much. Everyone listening, download this app, play with it. Oh, the other thing is like the year of the horse, their hearts have 10 times the
Oh, yeah.
magnetic energy field as humans. So another powerful, just like metaphor of now is the time to really
Yeah.
be leaning into this power within yourself and know that it is so vast, so profound. Yeah, so much more expansive than you can even imagine right now. So check out Moonifest and use that as a
Oh,
tool
yeah.
to tap into this raw, beautiful power.
Love it. Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, Samantha. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks so much. Bye.